So why don't you say that sentence again so I can write down the right way?
So
Vic has told you...
Vic, during all of our correspondences, after he started divulging into me that there was this forensic evidence that he had done on this phone and I wouldn't believe what was on it, and he explained some of the things that were on it, he said, in one way or another, I will get this information out. I've even thought about doing it myself, even though I probably could be charged with a crime. He said misdemeanor, actually. And then I asked him, I said, well, if you could be charged with a crime, why wouldn't I be charged with a crime? And he said, oh, no, you wouldn't have to worry about that. You would be considered a whistleblower. So he's the sheriff. I figured he knows the law and, I could trust him or whatever. And then I find out that wasn't the truth, that he was just manipulating me, which I'm embarrassed about because I kind of take some pride in the fact I worked all over this country. I had huge crews working for me. I'm usually a pretty good judge of character, and I'm not very easily manipulated, but I allowed him to do it.
This will be an attempted telephone call to Scott Casper at 218-821. Date, December 19. Time, 11:15 a.m. Reference case number 1801-5405. Agency assist.
Selling something, I'm not interested. So they ended up finding the people.
Scott there?
Hello?
Hey, is Scott there?
Are you selling something?
No, I'm not. My name's Chad Clefman. I'm a police investigator working on a agency assist investigation. Can you go somewhere where I can hear you, where you still have everything in the background, or no?
Possibly. Hang on, I'm down in Florida on vacation. So what's this about?
Okay. I was assigned to investigate the private data release of the Saldo investigation reference to Brian Johnson that was released to the Grand Rapids Herald. I've met with quite a few people, including the sheriff here today, and you're on my list of people to try and meet with in reference to that and any possible knowledge you have on how the newspaper got that Saldo report.
And why would you be asking me then?
Primarily I think...
I guess my question is Brian Johnson or a bunch of his goons told you to talk to me or something? Because that's basically what they are. They spew nothing but lies, so...
Well, in part it was a lot of the Facebook communication that you had in reference to... It seemed like, from looking at it, that you had some knowledge of that Saldo report even before it even came out, is a big part of it. But yeah, Brian obviously was a part of kind of pointing in that direction of the Facebook communications.
We pretty much know what Brian's credibility is. The arbitrator said he lied 19 times.
I'm not doubting any of that.
And they also said that he's a pathological liar. So I really don't have much confidence in anything that man says.
Nothing has to do with Brian as far as what he says like that. That's kind of how it got to that, but it was primarily the Facebook messages about some of the information that he talked about in there that most people didn't know. Most people didn't know about.
I'll tell you straight out, any information I have or known was all public information that I picked up. I put in tons of data requests to the county. You can check on that. I got data requests in right now trying to get the data off of his phone because he continually still says that he didn't have 26,000 pornographic, images and text messages and emails on his phone, which I guess I'll just say it this way. I don't know if you've ever heard this saying or not, but you can tell the size of a ship by how long it takes for a rumor to get from the bow to the stern. And Itasca County is a pretty small ship. So several times I've sat in restaurants in town and there's been 2 deputies sitting right behind me. I wasn't eavesdropping on them, but they're not very quiet when they talk. And I heard a couple of them talking about, they got sent this information or that information or whatever. So pretty much everything that was out there was, and I agree, with allegations, rumors, whatever, but more people were talking about everything that supposedly was on this phone and stuff. They've been talking about it for the last year or whatever,
So, quick, did you see the Saldo report? Did anybody give it to you?
No, I don't. I don't have any special information or anything.
Okay, so nobody gave you paper or a media file of it?
First of all, I'll say it to you this way. If you would like to talk to me, we can get an attorney and you can talk to me. Because I didn't do nothing wrong, and I am smart enough to know at 60 years old that you don't talk to law enforcement unless
you're not
somebody there with you.
You're not in a jam. This isn't about you. It's just a simple question. If you ever received if anybody ever gave you the Saldo report.
No, I declined to answer any of these questions without the representation of an attorney.
Okay, so you won't say if you got the.
And I can tell you flat out, I don't know anything more than the next person down the street. And anything that I know has all been public information or gossip or rumors or whatever. So, I don't have nothing to hide.
That's just a simple question.
But I'm just telling you, my uncle was a sheriff for 23 years. My father-in-law was a Minnesota State Trooper for 32 years. And he also was a bailiff in Itasca County for 12 years, so 40-some years of law enforcement. And they all told me, never talk to a police officer unless you have representation.
I'm just looking for a yes or no question, and if anybody ever gave you the report.
My answer to you, I will not talk to you without representation.
So you won't answer that question if anybody ever gave you that Saldo report.
I will not answer any questions unless I have representation. Okay.
All right. Well, if you
and it's like I said, it's nothing to do with anything I've done or anything like that. Other than my father, the 2 people I trust more than anybody in the world is my uncle, who was a sheriff for 23 years, and my father-in-law, who was in law enforcement for 42 years.
Okay, you realize that you're not the focus of anything. It's just a plain, simple question.
No, I don't. I don't see why it would be. So no, I'm not concerned about that at all. That's not a problem.
It's interesting how you won't answer that. You'll talk about everything else, but you won't answer that question, though.
No, I don't. I won't. I won't talk to you about anything about any of the investigation or whatever. I don't think I have any way other than just to tell you that I'd cooperate in any way possible. I respect law enforcement more than you'll ever know. Dick Williams is a great sheriff. He's done a great job.
And I'm not doubting any of that. And I have no problem with Sheriff Williams. I think I've met with him, and I've met with everybody here. I have no problem with any of that. It's the only primarily question that I have. Did anybody give you this Saldo report? And if you won't answer that question,
and they've got, it's just become almost comical how Brian keeps going on about everything, like he just did. It's his money, so it doesn't matter. But he just wasted $80-some doing a recount. Well, no time in the history of the state of Minnesota when the vote was just in the margins of a recount. In other words, it wasn't less than whether it's 1% or 2.5% or whatever for the county to have a recount. So anytime it's been over those margins, there's never been an election overturned in the history of the state of Minnesota. And in the country, I don't think there's been very few, especially when there was over 200 and some votes. But he keeps dragging it on and on and on and on and on because I think he's narcissistic. The judge said or the arbitrator said that he's a pathological liar. He has zero credibility.
How do you know that how do you know the arbitrator called him a pathological liar?
Because it's in the arbitrator's report, which is public information, which I went on the Minnesota State website and pulled the arbitrator's report off.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all public information.
Yep. Just asking you how you got it. That's all.
Yeah. No. I mean, almost everything out there is public information, and if it's not, it should be. And I've done my due diligence, and I still am right now, to put in the data requests for that. I've talked with Brett Stiles and Lynn Hart, and I don't know where it's at now. I got to have a meeting with them here again. So basically just trying to do everything within my rights and the law to get information that's public and put it out there, because he's been emboldened enough now that he'll run again. He only lost by 200 and some votes, and he cannot be our next sheriff. I mean, the man is not fit to be sheriff. You know, I have nothing against him personally or anything. I've talked to him on the phone several times for several hours and everything else. So it's not been being vindictive or anything like that. It just comes down to the fact that he will not be a good sheriff. He's not honest. And, law enforcement should be held to a higher standard. They know that when they take the job.
Yep.
And that has to be maintained. And if he was our sheriff, that wouldn't happen. So none of it's personal with me. It's just more that I don't want my grandkids, or kids growing up with him as our sheriff.
I hear you.
So I wouldn't trust him. So no, yeah, if you want to, when I get back up in Minnesota or whatever, you want to sit down and talk, I have no problem with it. But I just hope you respect that the way I was taught was how I told you to do it, and that's how I would do it.
All right. Yep. I have no problem with that. If you have somebody you want to be with you, I have no problem with that. It's just the one question. We've talked about everything.
It's just no offense to you, and it's all politics is all it is. I mean,
I have nothing to do with
got afraid, and he instructed or asked you guys to do an investigation because I talked to Tom, and they said they couldn't do it through the Rapids Police or whatever.
Right.
And it's just a waste of money. It's a waste of. I'm pretty sure there's some real crime going on in Brainerd that probably deserves your attention more than this bullshit. Because number one, I don't, however the newspaper got their information, they're protected anyway. I mean, I can't imagine any newspaper in their right mind would give up their sources, and they're protected by the Constitution, the First Amendment.
Well, that's up for debate. That's up for debate now because it's a.
Well, no, it is. I mean, and even in Minnesota, there's extra laws besides the Constitution. From what I understand, I don't know that. I'm not a lawyer or whatever, but I know journalists have gone to jail when Obama was tapping the phones of that Fox News gal. She ended up going to jail, and they tapped her folks' numbers and her emails and all that bullshit. And she just said, "No, I'm not saying nothing." I don't remember how long she spent time in jail or whatever it was, but they pretty fast released her because that ain't very good PR. And I don't think Itasca County or Crow Wing or whatever is stupid enough to do something like that too, I mean, I don't know that, but that'd be my guess anyway. But
okay.
I mean, I don't know. I hope. I guess you got to do what you got to do or whatever. But I just think it's a waste of time myself. There's rapes and everything else that should be investigated. something as stupid as if everything allegedly that's on his phone is true. I haven't seen what's on his phone. I have no idea, but I will get the information because it is public information. And if I got to hire an attorney and file the paperwork and have it go to court and stuff, I will finally get it the legal way. I don't do things illegally. I don't lie or anything like that. But I will go through the process to get whatever is on that phone. If I was on the news one night when they had their protest up there and stuff, and I don't know how the hell I ended up on it, but all I said was, this is so simple. If Brian Johnson's innocent, all he has to do is go to the Itasca County Sheriff's Office. Go to the Itasca County Human Resources Office and tell them to release everything on his phone. So, in other words, if everything he's saying is true and there isn't 26,000 pornographic messages, videos, pictures on his phone, if he had them release it all, he'd be innocent, right? He'd be covered. But that's never going to happen because, and it's all allegations, I understand that, how that works.
Well, you know what?
If it's not
I'm
true,
not
all
here.
the stuff that's on his phone, why doesn't he go tell him to release it all?
I'm not here about Brian. I'm not here about his guilt or innocence or his termination or the election. I am only here to see who provided the Saldo report to the Grand Rapids Herald, and that's it. And my only question that I necessarily have for you...
I would say good luck with that, because I doubt if any newspaper in their right mind's going to tell you who gave that.
Well,
I don't know that. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me either way, to be honest with you.
So what I was getting at is, my only question to you is if somebody gave it to you and if you gave it to the newspaper.
Yeah, well, like I said, if you would like to talk to me with representation, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, enjoy your vacation if that's what you're on.
And that is, I'm guilty or whatever. It's just my policy. I respect police officers. I fly the thin blue line flag in my backyard, and my wife is a 911 dispatcher.
Right.
So I have all the respect in the world for you and veterans, but I do believe in my constitutional rights, number one, but I do believe that I trust what 58 years of law enforcement has told me over the year.
Okay.
So,
all right, that tells me enough.
So that's just how I handle things, that's all.
That tells me enough. I appreciate it. You have a good vacation. Have a good day.
What was that?
I just said that tells me enough. I appreciate your conversation, and have a good vacation. Have a good day.
And good luck.
All right, you too. Take care.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye.
I have my tape recorder on right now. It's August 27, 2019, times 11:27 a.m. at the Grand Rapids Fairgrounds. Let's start off with Mr. Casper. What's your full name, birthday, please?
John Scott Casper.
It's not Jonathan or anything like that?
No.
What's your birth date?
19.
Mailing address for you?
Lakeview Drive, Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
What's the zip up here?
55744.
And sir, what's your name?
Anthony M. Is it Michael?
So your middle name is Michael?
Yep.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Kotula.
Birth date?
1959.
Okay. What's a mailing address for you, Anthony?
Airport Road.
Airport Road?
Yep. Grand Rapids, same zip.
Okay. What a phone number for you?
My cell is 259.
Okay. What's your business here?
I just asked him to come to listen in, just to have another set of ears for me.
Okay. Well, for the purpose of this statement, then, Anthony, you need to not say anything. If we need a separate statement, we'll do a separate statement, but for transcription purposes and statement purposes, it'll only be one person talking. Okay?
That's fine.
Okay, John, is it accurate to say that we had several telephone conversations and you were thinking about providing a statement for a period of time, and now you reached out again last week and wanted to provide a statement?
Correct.
Okay, this is reference Brainerd Police Department Agency Assist number 1801-5405. And I talked to you on the phone during the initial investigation, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you were, if I remember right, you're out of town or you were out of state?
Yeah.
Okay. At that time you didn't want to provide me with information as to that you had?
That's not true. I said I would if I had representation with me, a lawyer.
Okay. Kind of your game here to kind of say what you'd like, and I can follow up with what I need to from there as far as follow-up questions. So.
Okay, so I was a supporter of the current sheriff, Victor Williams. He was running for office this last term around, and
how long have you known Vic?
Probably since 2010.
At that time, what was your relationship to him? How close to him, friend?
It was just basically business. I actually had a step-granddaughter that the father was trying to get custody of, and there was a lot of things going on with that, and I felt he did the right things during that and helping us, our family, with what he could help with and stuff.
Did you ever hang out with Vic?
No.
Have a beer with him, have dinner with him?
No, not socially or anything like that.
Did your wife work for him at one point? Was it, or no?
She...
The dispatcher?
Yeah, she was a dispatcher.
What's her
Not
name?
sure what the relevance of that is.
Well, I still know him that way.
Okay.
Well, the relevance is that
I know what the relevance
in part,
is.
people said that you've come forward because your wife was fired, and now that's the reason that you want to provide the information now, and that I would assume that Vic would have to do something with her being terminated.
No, that has nothing to do with it. This is about policy and policy alone, and I knew that he would try to bring that up. First of all, when he was running for office, he assured me he was going to take care of his budget. The past year it had a $6 million budget. He ran it up to $9.5 million his first term. And he promised all of us that were supporting him that he would take care of his budget. He didn't. It's nearly $10 million right now. Number two, he had a deputy, a sergeant that's a drunk and done crazy things as like kicking a door in at a domestic, but geez, it was the wrong apartment, but nobody gets in trouble over it.
So you're not happy with how he's running the office now?
It's all policy. And well before the incident with my wife, what was going on, I was talking to the Johnson supporters and the Johnson family, and also a relative of mine who works for the sheriff's office that tried to convince me when Vic was running that he wasn't the right man and he wasn't who I thought he was, and that I probably shouldn't be supporting him. But this individual, being relative and whatnot, didn't want to push the issue because she didn't want hard feelings between us. And in fact, she didn't support Johnson either at the time. She supported one of the other two candidates. So in the meantime, a lot of people had come up to me and made me aware of other things. One of them did have to do with the 911 center. They don't currently belong to, and I don't know the proper name of it, the medical dispatch portion of it. So there was an incident of an individual up on a lake up here north this winter that was stroking out, and he ended up having a very serious, and it was evident that they needed to do lifelink. When you belong to the medical dispatch end of it, as soon as it's a medical call, it goes right to, lifelink North or whoever you're contracted to. They're EMTs, they know how to handle the situation, they know how to start CPR, things like that. that individual ended up not getting life flighted to Duluth for 3.5 hours, where if it would have been through the medical end of it, it wouldn't have been probably over an hour and a half. The helicopter couldn't fly at the time, but fixed wing could have, but they never dispatched it out that way because their policies don't do that.
Okay.
We'll keep going here. Another one is the canine units. They have 4 canine units at this sheriff's office. All 4 of the canine units on 2 different occasions were all getting drunk on some lake social event. That's fine, that's their business, they're on their own time. But guess what? They needed a canine unit. So they had to call a canine unit from Aiken to come up to take care of that situation, and then they either trade for time or they get billed for it. So he's obviously don't know how to manage his budget, number one. He obviously doesn't know how to dispatch his people out as far as not being smart enough to keep 1 canine unit on duty all the time so that they're available. There's many issues that are going on here. So this has nothing to do with my wife. And in fact, I'm glad my wife's not working. I'm retired. I'm looking forward to spending more time with her. And I told Vic Williams that. And he has an email and a text message to that effect. So if he's trying to turn this around, that this is what it's about, it's not, and he knows it very well. And it just shows that he's grasping at straws. And I'm surprised that you even know this or would bring it up to me here.
Well, you brought it up.
No, I don't know. But that's not what this is about in any way, shape, or form. It's about all the issues that I just talked to you about. And including abusing his power recently after a board meeting, putting a message out on the streets, because I still have friends that work at the sheriff's office, that he was going to charge me with a disorderly conduct after a meeting at the board meetings. And the whole meeting was on ICTV. I was nothing but respectful. At the end of my message that I was putting out, I thanked the board and turned around and walked away, and he was 3 or 4 chairs down. And for whatever reason, because I think he's getting worried that the truth is coming out, he arranged with Matty Johnson, the county attorney, to see if he could try to charge me with this so-called disorderly conduct charge, which was non-existent. So Vic Williams is not innocent.
Okay. What do you got here for me, John?
Well, right here is the information that was given to me by Vic Williams' instructions. So there's timetables that we need to go back to. All right. So way back in June of 2018, like I said, I was helping Vic with a lot of time and some of the fundraisers, things like that.
With the election and stuff?
Yeah, and he had actually came to my place during that June time and dropped off signs and stuff, and we were talking about strategies and things like that. I went to his office during that same time and gave him a $50 cash donation. August, I helped with the Tall Timber Days parade, marched in the parade, things like that. The 14th was the primary. Vic came out the victor with Brian Johnson.
June 14th?
August. In,
August 14th.
Yeah, okay. I believe that's when it was. And these are close dates, best I can remember. I think that was the 14th. Then the fair time was like the 15th to the 19th. And Brian's people were really organized. They were doing a great job, and they were pounding Vic on the budget issues. During the debates that they had, and advertising, social media. He had a video blog going that Brian did and stuff. And so I started telling Vic that it's not looking good for him. The court of public opinion, money means a lot, taxpayer money to people, and they are doing a good job showing that he wasn't managing his budget, which was a big concern of mine, of Vic, and he had promised the whole time that he was going to take care of those problems. And so I got more and more concerned, and I kept bugging him about it, and he told me that I didn't need to worry about it, that it was all going to be taken care of. He had something in the works that was going to make it all go away. It would all be taken care of. And so it was getting closer. It would have been like in October. He kind of got irritated with me about him bugging him about that I thought he was losing the race, basically, because of the budget issue mainly. So then he started hinting to me what this ace in the hole, I guess I would call it, that would make all this go away, that he had something on Brian. And he said, I can't tell you what all it is now, but I'm going to win this election. I've got information. So then I was talking to him on the phone one day, and I have all my phone records, and I got a ton of text messages and emails and stuff, and that's all available to you guys. He said that that Brian had...
When is this?
He said that Brian had done some misappropriate things on his phone, and that's what the stuff that he had.
When did Vic tell you that?
That would have been the end of August, I would say. And the reason I say that is because he said I did a forensic investigation into Brian's phone, and you wouldn't believe what's on it. Pornographic things, jokes, pictures. So
I was just in the middle of ring. So Vic told you that he did a forensic exam on Brian's phone?
Yes. And, I was skeptical to begin with, and he could see that, and he said, I tell you what, go to the auditor's office, and we just paid the bill on it. It was almost $10,000, and get copies of it, and you might be able to use that, because I was always on their social media sites and their supportive sites, and I would go on to his YouTube video or FaceTime video that he was doing, and like I put the arbitrator's report. I was probably one of the first ones that had the arbitrator's report from when Brian got fired, because I called the state of Minnesota. It hadn't been out yet, and I talked to the lady down there, and I said, I understand the arbitrator's report's out, and I have those emails too. And she said, yes, I'm the one that does that. I apologize. I will have that out this afternoon. If you give me your email address, I'll send it to you. So I had all that information, and I was putting that out where they had the arbitrator's report, which was part of the reason that Brian had ended up getting fired and stuff.
So Vic told you to go to, you said the auditor's office?
Yeah. And so I did, and I have copies right here.
Auditor's office and request Brian's...
The billing and the payments to, I think it's called Minnesota Forensics. So I got those copies because I was planning on using that on social media.
So you got copies of Brian's cell phone report?
No, I got copies of the billing from Minnesota Forensic Company that did the forensic investigation.
Out of curiosity, why would that help the election, or what?
To put it out there that there's something going on with Brian and his phone, and the information would probably eventually come out.
Okay.
But then Vic said no, because I was going to do that, and he said, no, wait, it'd be better off when the whole report comes out. And so I held off, but he got me in touch with one of his staunch reporters, a very good friend to him, and a gentleman's name's Mark Fossen.
With one of his what?
One of Vic's staunch supporters.
Oh, staunch supporter.
And this gentleman's name's Mark Fossen. So I started communicating with this Mark Fossen, and Vic told me it was getting closer, because you're getting into the end of November or so, and the election wasn't too far away. And I said, Vic, if you're going to do something, because some of the things, he told me some of the things that were on this, which he shouldn't have, because that's a violation of personal information of his ex-employee at the time. he said, you wouldn't believe some of the things on it. There's a picture of what appears to be a nun and somebody behind her having sex with her. And he talked about nude pictures being sent, and he said, you won't believe it. There's just tons of stuff on this phone or whatever. So it's getting closer to election time, and I said, Vic, we got to be doing something. And he said, don't worry, you'll be getting the information. So that was around the 17th or so and I didn't know it at the time, was when the Solido, the investigation report came out. So then on the 19th...
Of what month?
Of October. So then on the 19th, I talked to this Mark Fossen, and I didn't think nothing of it at the time, but he was talking to me about this report. And there's no way that he would have known anything about it unless, somebody had given me information, and it was Vic that had given...
I don't remember the day the Solo report came out?
17th, right here, October 17th.
Okay.
So on the 19th, this Mark was talking to me about as if he already had it, basically. I didn't put it together at that time. So then I was talking to him on the 23rd, this Mark Fossen, and he says, I got the information, and that he was going to send it out to Brainerd, Minneapolis, Duluth newspapers, and even Grand Forks, but he didn't think he could get the Herald Review in Grand Rapids, a local paper, to do anything with it. And then
so
that's
October 23rd, he told you that?
Yeah. So
how did he tell you that, verbally or?
Yeah, we were talking over the phone, and then also I have text messages and messenger messages that will collaborate what I'm saying.
So Mark told you that he has the Solido report and he was going to give us a different...
He didn't say he had the Solido report. He says, I have the report.
Okay.
So then on the 24th, let me pull it up. I get him. I was uptown, so I wasn't at home, and I didn't have my iPad and stuff. And he said, did you get it? And I said, what? The report. Well, before that, I think it was the 23rd, he asked me for my email address. And I gave him my email address. And that's all through Messenger. I have all that documented. So then on the 24th, he asked...
Give me 1 second so I can write this down here. Hold on. Okay, and the 23rd, he also gave you your email.
Yeah.
Or asked for your email.
It was the 23rd, 23rd, I think it was. I got the emails here. Or the messenger messages.
Okay, keep going.
So then I said I hadn't, so I went home and I pulled it up, and there was a message from him and a PDF, which was the Solido report, which I printed off a copy for you right here.
All right, I have it.
And it says right there, confidential on the top. And
Mark, say how he got it?
He wouldn't tell me at that time. We talked a little bit about it, and there was kind of a hint that maybe I took it this way, that it came through Vic's sister. Shoot, I bet you there ain't no Wi-Fi here, sir. here it is right here. So this is what he sent me on 10/23 is actually he sent it. Here's a scan of that document I found blowing around in the courthouse parking lot. Thought you might like to look it over, Mark.
Okay. You want to forward that to me?
Yeah, I can. And I just wrote down here because I had sent it off on 6/9 to some of the individuals that I had been talking to. This was sent to me. I was told by Vic Williams that I would be getting this by a third party, which I have already told you that. And then here's it might not open it in here, but that's okay, there it is, which is what's right there. So this is what he sent.
So Mark ultimately gave you the dollar report.
Yep.
But he said he found it blowing around in the...
Well, you read it. It says, how do you find a PDF blowing around a parking lot? So obviously somebody gave it to him and I knew they shouldn't have gave it to him. And I know who gave it to him because Vic said that I would be getting it through another party.
Whatever you have that you want to forward to me, there's my email.
There's everything I'm saying to you, there's either a messenger message, actually voicemail, messenger messages where you can talk in the messenger with Mark's voice on it and back and forth with us.
Who's Mark to Vic?
From what I understand, he's from Deer River, Vic's from Deer River. They've been, I don't know if lifelong friends or, I don't know if they went to school together or what, but the way Mark talks, Mark told me at one time, when this information comes out, said, I don't care what kind of trouble a person would get in or whatever, I would get it out there for him. Because Vic told me many times when we were talking, after he divulged to me that there was this forensic report and there's all this damaging information on it, that it needed to get to the news media. And he's even tempted to do it himself, even though he knew he could even...
Vic has told you that?
Yes, and he even knew that he could be charged with up to at least a misdemeanor for it. And that's when I asked him, I said, well, if you can be charged for a misdemeanor, you want me to give this information out, can I be charged with, a crime? And he said, no, you wouldn't be charged with a crime because you'd be considered a whistleblower, which after I found out wasn't the truth, from what I understand. I don't know.
So why don't you say that sentence again so I can write it down the right way?
So
Vic has told you...
Vic, during all of our correspondences, after he started divulging into me that there was this forensic evidence that he had done on this phone and I wouldn't believe what was on it, and he explained some of the things that were on it, he said, one way or another, I will get this information out. I've even thought about doing it myself, even though I probably could be charged with a crime. He said misdemeanor, actually. And then I asked him, I said, well, if you could be charged with a crime, why wouldn't I be charged with a crime? And he said, oh, no, you wouldn't have to worry about that. You would be considered a whistleblower. So he's the sheriff. I figured he knows the law and, I could trust him or whatever. And then I find out that that wasn't the truth, that he was just manipulating me, which I'm embarrassed about because I kind of take some pride in the fact I worked all over this country. I had huge crews working for me. I'm usually a pretty good judge of character, and I'm not very easily manipulated, but I allowed him to do it. And I think partly had to do with the fact that
Vic wanted to get the information out to the public or to the press? What was your term for that? I don't remember.
Oh, to the news media.
Okay. Did Vic ever give you a copy of the Solder report?
No.
Did you ever talk to Mark, and Mark specifically told you that he got the Solder report from Vic?
He never specifically said that he got it from Vic. He said in that he found it blowing around the parking lot or whatever, and then he'd like, wink or whatever and say, he knew I knew different. He did say that Vic had said the same thing to him that he had said to me, that this information needed to get out and that one way or another it had to get out to the public. And he had said that when I talked to him about I thought he was losing in the court of public opinion because of the budget issues and stuff, he acknowledged that. And I was trying to get him to respond to that with articles in the papers or going on his social media and stuff. But he never seemed concerned about it. And then he finally told me why, because he had, these are my words, this dirt on Brian, the candidate, and it would come out and he would get it out. And then later on, like I said, when I was pushing him harder, he said that I would be receiving it. So it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that it went from him to Mark or another.
So Vic told you that you would be receiving the Saldo report?
The report. Never said Solido because I always took it that it was the Minnesota Forensics, I think it was, is the name of the company that did the actual phone investigation on it. And then she put it all together, I think is what it was for Vic. But there's other stuff to this. Another reason that I come forward, I'm really involved in politics in town here, and I speak my mind. I go to almost every board meeting. The board never had the opportunity for individuals, constituents to speak at a board meeting, ever. I mean, every entity around here does, school board, cities, townships. So in other words, you can go up and speak about any subject you want or give them information that might help them on voting on something or whatever. So way back last year, late in the year, I started working on that stuff, and I seen how non-transparent they really are. And people started coming up to me and talking to me about the sheriff's office and that I never did have all the truth and some of this stuff wasn't true. And one of these individuals ended up in a lawsuit with the county for almost 6 years, 2 individuals. And I started talking to her and him, there was 2 of them. And so she started talking to me because I said, well, it must be true. A very well established, prominent investigating attorney did this report. And she said, yeah, Solido. And I said, yeah. And she knew it anyway. And she said, this is her words, she's just a whore for whoever will hire her to write up what they want done. And I said, what do you mean by that? She said, well, they hired her during my deal, and this lady is very intelligent. And she said when she got done going through the reports over that whole time period, there was over 500 discrepancies in her investigations. So I started doing some digging on her too, internet things, and I don't think she's as up and up as it seems. And she showed me some of the discrepancies of the 500 that this lady had. So I started having second thoughts about information that Vic had been giving me, and then the fact, like I said earlier, about the budget, about the deputies. There's a couple of them that seem to get by with anything and don't get disciplined, about the fact that they're putting the public in danger through the 911 center for health calls. And then I started talking to the relative of mine, that individual of mine that works for the sheriff's office, the one that tried to tell me that Vic, it wasn't who he was when I was supporting him. And that person started telling me about things that the inner workings at the sheriff's office and favors that are done and people owing people stuff, and then the canine stuff. So way back, going back to this deal with my wife, way back in December, and I've got correspondences that'll prove it, and these people will talk about it too. I was corresponding with people on the Johnson side, including family, that I had made a mistake and that I regretted supporting him, and that I had information that would prove who leaked all of the information. And of course, they were encouraging me, but there's a lady, her name's Mary Roy, she's a realtor in town, and I didn't know she was friends with the Johnson family. And I mean, this was a hotly contested election. People supported who they supported, and there was arguments, even some fights and stuff. So she didn't support Vic, and I knew that, but she never pushed me, just like my cousin didn't, because she didn't want, rift between us and stuff. And she encouraged me to contact the Johnson family and hear their side of the whole thing. And so I did. And like I said, that was way back started in December, and then right up through to now. So he can blow smoke up whoever's ass he wants that this is about my wife. It's not, because I'm glad my wife don't work there. I could care. I don't need her money for working any place. I've done well for myself. Retired at 56 years old.
So who physically gave the Saldo report to the Grand Rapids Herald?
I did.
How did you go about doing that?
I walked into their office and told them I had information. I explained everything to them.
Who were you talking to?
Bretta Arndt and Andy. Well, first it was just Bretta. She's the editor, I believe.
Beretta?
Bretta. I'm not sure what her last name. She's the editor. I've got her email address and stuff here. I've got hundreds of emails back and forth.
Walked into her office and talked to her? Yeah,
and I explained to her, and I said, from what I understand, I was told that if I gave this to you, I couldn't get in any trouble, that I would be a whistleblower and whatnot, and they weren't so sure about that themselves. So I gave her the information. They were basically sitting.
How did you give it to her? Was it on paper or on disk or on?
The PDF.
So
I actually sent it to her email.
Okay. PDF.
But they have from what I understand, this is what she said after, I'll explain to you, nothing was happening. And I have correspondences with Mark and I back and forth about why are they not putting this information out and stuff. So I went in again and talked to him, and I talked to Andy, who I didn't know at the time. He's actually my neighbor, and I don't know what his position is there.
So you sent the PDF to them, and they weren't doing anything with it, so you went in to clarify with Andy.
What's going on. That's who I ended up talking to. I was instructed to talk to him because I think Bretta wasn't available, or I asked to talk to someone the next step up the ladder. Maybe it was, I don't remember how it went. So I went into his office and I explained everything to him, that I'd given her all this information. He said, yes, I'm fully aware of it. We're consulting our lawyers right now to find out what our rights are and, frankly, your rights. As far as you giving us information, do we have to divulge it, things like that. And as you very well know, they didn't divulge it because I talked to you and you said you've talked to them and stuff. So they assured me that it would never get out. And, in fact, later on when I actually talked to the person, all three of them in an office, Mark Roy, who is the head honcho, I guess, at the Herald Review. So first Beretta, then Andy, and then Mark, and then all three of them I had talked to. And then they decided to do, they thought it was important that it got put out to the public, and they decided to do an article on it. And then at that time, they reassured me that it would never get leaked out. They talked to their attorneys that the law was on their side. Both federal and state laws were even stronger. And she, in fact, said that she had something on her emails that she could destroy it and it wouldn't show that I even sent it to them. I don't know if that's true or not.
Why didn't Mark forward it to Grand Rapids Herald?
I think he had some rift with them or something. I'm not sure what. To be honest, that's what I always thought, but I'm not sure because he had no qualms about contacting Duluth News Tribune, and he told me that personally.
None of them did an article, did they?
They didn't do it until the Herald did.
Okay.
And that seemed to be what the key was. It was a local issue. You know, they didn't have as much. I don't know if he at that time had given them. Yeah, he said he sent the report to him. That's how he put it. So they were sitting on it. And I don't know if he talked to them maybe about that if the local newspaper was going to do an article, so they thought they had a stronger stance, or, you know, because both sides are constituents of these papers and TVs, you know, and look at how the election went. It was, Vic only won by 200 votes as it was, and I personally think he would have lost if he wouldn't have manipulated the public with this report and got it put out there. Because everybody I talked to, you know, even people that were supporters of Vic or liked him, because I kind of did my own little polls, like if you want, you know, social media and things, and friends. It's a small community. And even the ones that typically had supported him in the past were very upset about the $3 million plus budget increase he had in 4 years' time. You know, it's a lot of money, and they were big time concerned about that, and that's why I kept pushing Vic about, you know, explain it. One of the things, and it was legitimate, they built a new 911 center, and they spent, I don't remember what it was, $1.5 million.
But isn't that more of a county attorney or county board issue that they should be addressing that?
No, he puts the budget in, and then
it has to be approved.
When it ultimately comes down to it, they spend the money. It's just like the House of Representatives. The only way can spend money or tax us is them, and it's the same thing in the county. But there's things that go along with that too. I mean, I'll show you a video of the whole Anna Cass thing. She was accused of listening in on information between a subordinate of theirs and another employee. They were in an interrogation room, and supposedly she listened to it. She got charged with 2 felonies, actually. So all said and done, it got thrown out on a technicality, and Vic submitted her $40-some thousand lawyer's bills for the county to pay. And initially they paid it, but the procedures weren't followed. And so then the board rescinded it later on, and there was a big hoopla. There was many people come to board meetings and things like that. And Vic spoke at that board meeting. I mean, he was just livid. He had a hold of the podium. You can see it. He had a hold of the podium, shaking it and threatening the board, saying that under statute 3.5, whatever, it says that I'm the authority and I decide if a bill's legitimate, and I give it to you, and statute 4.6 says you have to pay it. And well, it was ironic, the attorney for, not the county attorney, but the attorney that they hired for other matters was there, and he was dealing with this matter, and he stepped up to the podium and says, well, yeah, 3.5 says that he's the authority to turn the bill in, but ultimately you people decide who pays the bill. He doesn't dictate if you pay the bill, which is what he was trying to. And like one of the board members told me, because I posted that video here a while back, he said he's just a bully, you know, he was trying to bully them and stuff. And it ended up, there was a 3-2 vote to end up paying it again. But there was a lot of pressure being put on them from both sides not to pay it, hundreds of emails, phone, all these things, you know. Ultimately, I helped get that paid. I mean, I was, like I said, a big supporter back then, and I did believe that they should have paid the bill because she wasn't convicted of a crime, and how do you expect to get good people to come work for the county if you don't have their backs? Especially like the social service nurses, or somebody said somebody sexually did something to somebody and they charge them and then they end up not getting convicted. They shouldn't have to pay those lawyers' fees, you know. Now that I look back on it, it was wrong because they he didn't follow procedure doing it, you know. There's so many things that are so wrong that I found out that he's not ethical, and the moral standards aren't there like I thought, you know.
So, Mr. Casper, anything more relevant to the release of the Saldo Consulting investigation to the Grand Rapids Herald? And then will you make sure that you forward me what you...
Yeah, I
whatever you
just
have?
want to make sure that you get all the messengers and text messages and emails and stuff like that.
Get them all to me.
Because everything I'm telling you, I want to say this, everything I'm telling you is 100% true. I will take a polygraph test, and I will testify. Okay. Ask Vic Williams if he'll take a polygraph test.
On those, when you forward those emails, if you could do some kind of little label of them or whatever kind of documentation with each email, say, if it's not obvious that it's, say, the date and time and whatever it is, but just maybe kind of put a label on them or a little bit of a description or something like that.
Okay. Just so you know, I recorded our conversation too.
And then after I get those, I may need to call you back with some follow-up questions, just to make sure that I have everything, I can document everything the right way.
I've been talking, after I realized, and it started way back, like I said, in December, and then the more information I got, and I started talking with you, that was early this spring, I believe, sometime. And in fact, I know one of the individuals from the Johnson side said that they actually sent you my telephone number way back, I think in beginning of the year or something like that. I don't remember.
I don't remember if they did or
not. I know you and I talked with other people, and I told you that I had it on speaker and things like that too. So I know you're well aware of how long I've been working on this, and the truth just needs to come out. I guess what finally decided it for me was my dad passed away when I was young, and he was a good man, and I thought, what would he do? He would tell the truth, and that's what needs to happen. So that's where I'm at with it.
I hear you.
So I just hope, I'll be honest with you, I don't have much faith in the system. Maddie Adams has done nothing, even though you talked to her. John Dimmich dropped it, and there's circumstances around that. It's kind of weird because...
well, John, no, I'll just say one thing. There has never been... back up. For someone to be charged with a crime, you got an attorney or prosecutor has to feel that they can prove something beyond a reasonable doubt that a specific person committed a specific crime. Mm-hmm. Everything that I know, and I've done everything with this case, there was never any information that could prove that any one person committed any one crime.
Right.
So John didn't do something wrong by not charging anybody with a crime. There was nobody to charge with a crime. There was no evidence that a specific person committed a crime that we could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they committed that crime. I
agree with you, but when my information and other information was brought forward to him and Maddie, they didn't want to listen to it.
But that information has to be brought to me, and then I provide that to them. They would be a witness to it, and Maddie very well might be with this, but that information has to come.
Of the board members.
It has to come through a police investigation for a criminal complaint.
That's something I want to add to this. I've talked to board members about this. I specifically talked to Terry Snyder and Burl Ives for over an hour. I've talked to Terry Snyder probably 10 times for a total of probably 6-8 hours even. 2 hours at a time here and there. And then he brought Burl Ives into it, and I explained to them what's going on. And you know what the issue was. I got nervous because I was told that I could be charged even on this, even though I was explicitly told by Vic that I wouldn't, and I was a whistleblower. And you told me that, no, that wouldn't happen because I come forward and then voluntarily given this information, and that you've never charged out an individual that, I guess in this case, whistleblew or anything like that. You specifically said that to me.
I said, to the best of my knowledge, this is regarding a county employee arranging for or releasing private data against an employee, and that's the statute that's being investigated. And to the best of my knowledge, a private citizen like you releasing something like this, a private information like the Saldo report, wasn't what was being investigated.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I asked about immunity or whatever,
right.
And you told me, and I told you we had on speaker and stuff, that the county attorney or Dimage would have to do that.
Correct.
And that's what we were seeking, but they weren't interested. So that tells me they weren't really interested in getting all this information out.
I won't go with you on that because I have never granted immunity or done that kind of thing without knowing what information is there to begin with. And you would never do it. No, John would never do that. I would never do that.
Yeah.
You just don't. You can't grant immunity for something you don't know what the information is.
Yeah, but from what I understand, it's wrote up, if this is credible, then you give you immunity or whatever. But that doesn't matter. I don't care anymore. Like I told you when I called you to.
And I'm not here looking to get any one specific person charged with any crime. My job is to gather all the information, all the facts, follow up with what needs to be followed up with, and then I have to give it to whoever the prosecuting attorney would be, potentially.
Yeah. I just hope that the due diligence is done. I mean, nobody minded spending $10,000 investigating a former employee. I mean, there's only one reason, and one reason alone. Brian Johnson had already been fired. And this is some of the reasons that I'm doing what I'm doing now. Because it's evident why Vic put this information out to influence an election, which I believe is another crime in itself, from what I understand. He deliberately did a forensic report, spent county money to benefit him in an election. And I truly believe that if he wouldn't have put this information out, got it to the people, influenced them to put it out, i.e. me, that he never would have won the election. He won by 200 votes. And everything I seen, he was going to lose. And that was 10 days before the election. So he deliberately dug up dirt using county money on an employee that had already been fired from the county, didn't even work for the county. I mean, what other reason would you do it for? He had already been, because I talked to Beltrami County attorneys. I did my due diligence. I've talked to everybody. And the Beltrami County attorneys up there, they had cleared Brian of any criminal activity with what was related to on his phone. So why would you still pursue this forensic report? For what reason? What was the means, the end? To influence an election. And that's what he did, in my opinion. So I would hope that the same, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, that the investigators would do their due diligence and go into the emails of Vic Williams. As far as that goes, all 5 people that it got released to. Be fair, I don't care. I know who released it. And Mark Fossen. And in fact, I've been told by a 25-year deputy in this county, retired, by a county attorney from another county, by one of the most prominent lawyers in the state of Minnesota and one of the most prominent in this town, that they need to flip Mark, Evidently, he broke the law too. It'd be easy to go into his computers and find out it was sent to him from somebody, unless they actually handed him a USB or whatever, and find out where he got it from. Because I know where he got it from. I just want it fair, that's all. Because the truth needs to come out. That's all I care about. And that's why I'm here.